Jane Carter wasn't sure what was worse, the pungent smell of the banquet hall or the way every alien in the room was staring at her. She'd been sent as Earth's representative to the Galactic Cooperative to showcase humanity's cultural adaptability, but right now, she was feeling neither adaptable nor diplomatic. Instead, she was starving. The banquet was a smorgasbord of alien delicacies, most of which looked like something a human would scrape off the bottom of a boot. Still, she couldn't let Earth's first official banquet appearance end in her looking like a picky eater. That would only fuel the stereotype that humans were inflexible creatures of habit. So, with a forced smile and a rumbling stomach, Jane approached the buffet. "Try the luminous dish," an alien resembling a sentient plant suggested. Its leaves rustled as it pointed to a glowing blue concoction that shimmered like liquid starlight. "It's a Ploctarian specialty." Jane hesitated. "Ah, what's in it?" The plantalien's fronds twitched in confusion. "Why does that matter? It's delicious." Desperate to avoid a diplomatic incident, Jane grabbed a small bowl and scooped up the glowing liquid. It smelled faintly of lavender and something she couldn't quite place. The Ploctarian ambassador, a bulbous, cow-like creature with translucent skin and tentacles, floated over to her. "You'll love it," the ambassador said in a tone that was far too eager. "Our milk is renowned for its restorative properties." Jane froze, spoon halfway to her mouth. "Milk?" "Yes. Produced fresh daily by the finest Ploctarians. You won't find anything else in the galaxy with such potency." The ambassador's tentacles wiggled in what Jane assumed was pride. She stared at the glowing blue liquid. "Milk? From them?" She glanced at the ambassador's jellyfish-like body and decided not to think too hard about it. Holding her breath, she took a sip. At first, it was fine, smooth, sweet, and oddly energizing. But then her stomach gurgled. A warmth spread through her body, starting in her chest and radiating out to her limbs. Her vision blurred, and she could feel a strange tingling in her fingertips. "Are you feeling the effects?" the Ploctarian ambassador asked eagerly, hovering closer. Jane tried to respond, but her voice came out as a squeak. The tingling intensified, and suddenly, she felt a burst of strength. Without meaning to, she gripped the edge of the table, which promptly shattered under her hand. The room went silent. Every alien turned to stare at her. "Ah, I think I need a doctor," Jane said weakly, her voice now several octaves higher. A Ploctarian medic, who introduced himself as Dr. Yumu, arrived almost immediately. He floated over with a concerned expression, or at least, what she assumed was concern. It was hard to read emotions on a creature with no face and glowing veins. "Ah, classic human overreaction," Yumu said, examining her with a device that looked like a glowing whisk. "Your physiology is reacting to the potency of our milk. Perfectly normal." "Normal?" Jane squeaked. Her voice echoed unnaturally through the hall, causing several aliens to cover what passed for their ears. "I just crushed a table. It's a minor side effect," Yumu assured her. "Nothing a little more milk won't fix." "More?" Jane stared at him in disbelief. "I'm not drinking another drop of that stuff. If you want to reverse the effects, you must," Yumu said with an air of authority. "Our milk is not only potent, it is also a powerful stabilizer. But you must close your eyes and trust the process." Jane wanted to argue, but another surge of warmth shot through her, this time making her fingertips glow. She yelped and shoved her hands into her pockets. "Fine," she muttered. "Just fix me." Yumu extended a tentacle, producing a smaller bowl of the same glowing blue milk. Jane glared at it as though it had personally insulted her. "Remember," Yumu said solemnly. "Close your eyes." Jane grabbed the bowl, pinched her nose, and gulped it down in one go. The taste wasn't bad, but the sensation that followed was like swallowing a live sparkler. Her whole body lit up like a neon sign, and she felt a sudden, overwhelming urge to laugh. "Oh no," Yumu muttered. "What?" Jane asked, giggling uncontrollably now. Humans tend to react unpredictably to second doses. This might take some time to stabilize. Before Jane could ask what he meant, another wave of strength coursed through her. She grabbed onto the nearest alien for support, a scaly, six-legged creature that immediately yelped and scampered away. "I hate this," Jane muttered between bouts of laughter. I really hate this. The Ploctarian ambassador approached cautiously. On behalf of my species, I would like to extend our deepest apologies. We had no idea humans were so sensitive. Sensitive? Jane snapped. You're the ones with, she stopped herself. This wasn't the time for a rant about alien dairy practices. Yumu sighed. This will require a more concentrated treatment. We'll need to visit the milk chambers. The what now? Jane asked, but Yumu was already floating away, gesturing for her to follow. As she stumbled after him, still glowing faintly and giggling intermittently, Jane couldn't help but think that this had to be some kind of cosmic prank. All she'd wanted was a snack. Now, she was glowing, laughing uncontrollably, and about to visit a place called the milk chambers. Earth better give me a damn medal for this, she muttered. Jane followed Dr. Yumu through the winding halls of the Ploctarian medical facility, still glowing faintly from the second dose of their infamous milk. The laughter had subsided, but she now felt a strange hyper-awareness of her surroundings. Every sound was amplified, every color too vivid, and she could feel the hum of the alien machinery vibrating through her skin. What exactly are these milk chambers? Jane asked, squinting at the pulsating walls around her. A sacred space where we Ploctarians produce our finest milk, Yumu replied with what sounded like reverence. It requires perfect conditions, temperature, hydration, and the appropriate stimulation. Jane stopped walking. Stimulation? Not to worry, Yumu said, waving a tentacle dismissively. It's entirely safe and, for Ploctarians, quite enjoyable. That's not reassuring, Jane muttered, but she kept walking. When they finally reached the chamber, Jane was greeted by a sight that made her want to turn around and walk right back out. The room was filled with dozens of Ploctarians, all floating serenely in a pool of glowing blue liquid. Soft, rhythmic humming filled the air, and the walls seemed to pulse in time with the sound. This is our communal lactation pool, Yumu explained proudly. Jane pinched the bridge of her nose. Of course it is. Yumu gestured for her to sit on a raised platform at the edge of the pool. For this treatment to work, we need to produce a more concentrated milk. You'll act as the catalyst. Jane blinked. Catalyst? What does that even mean? It means your presence will inspire the Ploctarians to produce milk of the highest potency, Yumu said as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Jane's jaw dropped. You're kidding. I assure you, I am not, Yumu said seriously. Humans are fascinating to us. Your resilience, your unpredictability, it's all very stimulating. Jane opened her mouth to argue but stopped herself. She was too exhausted to fight. Fine. Let's just get this over with. She sat on the platform, crossing her arms and glaring at the pool. The Ploctarians began humming louder, their tentacles glowing brighter. The liquid in the pool started to bubble, releasing a faint, floral scent that made Jane feel oddly calm. This feels weird, she muttered. It's perfectly normal, Yumu assured her. You're simply attuning to the milk's energy field. Jane gave him a skeptical look. That sounds like something you just made up. Yumu didn't respond, instead focusing on the pool as the milk began to coalesce into a glowing orb at the center. The humming reached a crescendo, and Jane couldn't help but feel a strange sense of awe despite the absurdity of the situation. Now, Yumu said, floating over with a small container, drink this. It's the purest milk we've ever produced. It should stabilize your condition entirely. Jane stared at the container, her reflection distorted in the glowing liquid. If this doesn't work, I swear I'm suing your entire species. She took the container and drank. The effect was immediate. Her body tingled, her vision sharpened, and the glow around her faded. For the first time in hours, she felt normal, or as normal as one could feel after ingesting alien milk in a room full of lactating jellicows. It worked, she said in disbelief. I think it actually worked. Of course it did, Yumu said, puffing up with pride. Ploctarian milk is unparalleled. Before Jane could respond, the chamber door burst open, and a panicked Ploctarian floated in. Doctor, there's a problem. What is it? Yumu asked, his tentacles twitching with concern. The milk reserves have been stolen, the newcomer exclaimed. Jane groaned. Of course they have. Yumu turned to her. We need your help. Without the milk, many lives will be at risk, not just Ploctarians but countless others across the galaxy who rely on it for medical treatments. Jane stared at him, her exhaustion replaced by a simmering irritation. Why does this sound like it's about to become my problem? Because you're the only one who can track the thieves, Yumu said. What makes you think that? Yumu hesitated. The milk you just consumed, it enhanced your neural pathways. You should now have an innate sense of direction, allowing you to track the stolen milk. Jane blinked. You're telling me I just drank a GPS system? In a manner of speaking, yes. Jane sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose again. Fine. Let's go find your damn milk. As Yumu led her out of the chamber, Jane couldn't help but mutter under her breath, next time, I'm bringing my own snacks. Jane found herself on the deck of a Ploctarian scout ship, staring at a holographic map that projected a series of blinking dots. Each dot represented a potential location for the stolen milk reserves, and the sight of them made her headache flare up again. Yumu hovered beside her, his tentacles twitching anxiously as he explained the plan. The thieves likely used a standard ion drive to escape, he said, pointing a glowing tentacle at the densest cluster of dots. That limits their range to these sectors. Great, Jane muttered, rubbing her temples. Just a dozen planets to search. No problem at all. You'll be fine, Yumu said reassuringly. Remember, the milk you consumed will help guide you. Just focus, and you'll feel a pull toward the right direction. Jane wasn't sure what annoyed her more, the fact that she was being treated like some kind of alien milk compass or the fact that he might actually be right. Ever since leaving the milk chambers, she'd felt a strange tugging sensation in the back of her mind, like an invisible thread pulling her toward something. All right, she said, resigned. Let's get this over with. The ship's engines roared to life, and they shot off toward the nearest dot. As they approached the planet, a desolate rock covered in jagged canyons, Jane felt the tugging grow stronger. This is it, she said, pointing to a cavern system visible on the planet's surface. Yumu nodded and steered the ship toward the entrance. As they descended, Jane's instincts screamed at her to be cautious. The cavern was dark, lit only by faintly glowing crystals embedded in the walls, and the air was thick with a metallic tang that set her teeth on edge. I don't like this, Jane muttered, her hand instinctively moving to the sidearm strapped to her hip. Stay close, Yumu said, his voice uncharacteristically serious. They crept through the winding tunnels, the glow of the crystals casting eerie shadows. The tugging sensation in Jane's mind grew almost unbearable, like a constant itch she couldn't scratch. Finally, they rounded a corner and entered a massive chamber filled with crates of glowing blue milk. There it is, Yumu whispered, his tentacles quivering with excitement. But Jane's sense of relief was short-lived. Standing guard over the crates were three figures, bipedal aliens with leathery skin and sharp, angular features. Each of them was armed with a weapon that looked disturbingly like a plasma rifle. Thieves, Yumu hissed. Yeah, no kidding, Jane said dryly. One of the guards spotted them and barked something in a language Jane didn't understand. The other two raised their rifles, aiming directly at her. Guess we're doing this the hard way, Jane muttered, drawing her sidearm. Before the guards could fire, she ducked behind a nearby rock and returned fire, the confined space amplifying the sound of each shot. Yumu, to his credit, stayed low and used his tentacles to manipulate a small device that emitted a blinding flash of light. The guards staggered, momentarily disoriented, and Jane seized the opportunity. She dashed forward, using the crates for cover, and took out the nearest guard with a well-placed shot. The remaining two regrouped quickly, their weapons lighting up the chamber with bursts of plasma. Jane gritted her teeth, narrowly dodging a shot that melted part of the crate she was hiding behind. Anytime you want to help, Yumu, feel free, she shouted. I'm a doctor, not a soldier, Yumu replied, his voice tinged with panic. Jane rolled her eyes and fired again, hitting another guard in the leg. The alien went down with a howl, leaving only one left. This one, however, was smarter. He grabbed one of the crates and held it up like a shield, slowly backing toward an exit. Oh no, you don't, Jane growled. She sprinted after him, her instincts guiding her every step. As the thief reached the exit, Jane tackled him to the ground, knocking the crate loose. The alien snarled, his sharp teeth snapping inches from her face, but she planted an elbow in his gut and knocked him out cold. Panting, she stood and retrieved the crate. The glow of the milk inside was almost hypnotic, and she felt a strange sense of satisfaction as she carried it back to Yumu. "Well," she said, dropping the crate at his feet, "that was fun." Yumu looked at her in awe. "You're incredible. No wonder humans have such a reputation in the cooperative." "Yeah, we're great," Jane said, brushing dirt off her uniform. "Now let's get this stuff back before anyone else decides to steal it." As they loaded the crates onto the ship, Jane couldn't help but wonder if this was just the beginning of her misadventures with Ploctarian milk. Something told her she hadn't seen the last of it. Back on the Ploctarian medical facility, Jane stood in the central atrium, watching as the stolen milk reserves were unloaded. The glow of the containers filled the room with an almost ethereal light, but Jane was too tired to care about the aesthetics. She just wanted to get this over with and return to something resembling normalcy. Yumu floated beside her, his tentacles moving with a mixture of pride and relief. "Thanks to you, Lieutenant Carter, countless lives will be saved. The cooperative owes humanity a great debt." Jane crossed her arms and smirked. "If humanity gets a free pass on parking violations in cooperative space, we'll call it even." Yumu didn't seem to understand the joke but nodded earnestly. "I'll make a formal recommendation." Before Jane could respond, a Ploctarian technician approached, holding a small datapad. "Doctor, there's an anomaly in the milk's composition. The samples recovered from the thieves appear enhanced." Jane raised an eyebrow. "Enhanced? How?" The technician hesitated, glancing nervously at Jane. "It seems the milk has absorbed some of the human's unique neurological markers. The doses now contain traces of her neural energy, which has amplified its effects." Jane blinked. "Wait, are you telling me the milk is me?" "Not exactly," Yumu said quickly, though his tentacles twitched in a way that suggested otherwise. "Think of it as an imprint your resilience and determination have flavored the milk." Jane stared at him, horrified. "You're selling milk with my brainwaves in it." "It's not as invasive as it sounds," Yumu assured her. "In fact, it's quite remarkable. Your contribution could revolutionize our medical practices. The milk is more potent, more effective, and it even seems to have gained a mild, energizing quality." Jane groaned, pinching the bridge of her nose. "Great. I'm an intergalactic energy drink." Before the conversation could devolve further, a group of cooperative officials entered the room, their various alien forms crowding the space. The leader, a tall, insectoid figure with gleaming carapace armor, approached Jane and Yumu. "We've reviewed the incident," the official said in a voice that buzzed like static. "Lieutenant Carter, your actions have not only recovered vital medical supplies but also demonstrated humanity's unique adaptability. The Cooperative Council has decided to award Earth an official commendation." Jane snorted. "A commendation? Does that come with a pay raise?" The official tilted its head, clearly confused. "No, but it does come with a ceremonial title." Jane raised an eyebrow. "Ceremonial title?" Yumu interjected, clearly excited. "Yes. You'll be known as Guardian of the Milk. A position of great honor among the Ploctarians." Jane stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then, she started laughing long, hard, and loud enough to echo through the atrium. "Guardian of the Milk? You've got to be kidding me." "It's a serious title," Yumu said, looking hurt. Jane wiped a tear from her eye. "Oh, I'm sure it is. But if you think I'm putting that on my resume, you're out of your mind." Despite her sarcasm, the officials seemed genuinely impressed by her. As they filed out, buzzing and chittering among themselves, Jane turned back to Yumu. "So, what now?" "Now," Yumu said, "we return to our work. But rest assured, your contributions will be remembered for generations. The milk will heal countless beings, and your role in its enhancement will be celebrated." Jane sighed. "Yeah, celebrated. Sure. Just make sure no one puts my face on a milk carton, okay?" As the Ploctarians began organizing the recovered reserves, Jane found herself drawn to one of the containers. She placed a hand on its surface, feeling the faint hum of energy within. Despite everything, the absurdity, the danger, and the sheer weirdness of it all, she couldn't deny a small sense of pride. "Hey, Yumu," she said, turning back to the doctor. "Yes." Jane smirked. "Next time you need a milk guardian, call someone else. I'm done being the galaxy's weirdest health supplement." Yumu laughed, a strange, bubbling sound that made Jane chuckle despite herself. "Understood, Lieutenant Carter. But should the need arise, I hope you'll consider a return. You have a talent for turning chaos into success." Jane shook her head, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "Yeah, well, chaos is kind of humanity's thing." As she walked toward the exit, the glow of the milk fading behind her, Jane couldn't help but think about the bizarre adventure she'd just survived. It was ridiculous, insane, and absolutely not what she'd signed up for, but it was also something she'd never forget. And deep down, she suspected the galaxy wouldn't forget her either.